Hey y'all. Yeah, I'm out in the shop. And this is the entire reason for this video. This video is going to be an introduction into a new series. Now, it's not going to be a weekly series. It's not going to be any kind of a regular series at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through me building a brand new home hobby CNC shop from basically starting from literally from the ground up, starting with bare dirt, site prep, all the plans, everything else. The title is kind of misleading because I'm not going to be building the shop. I am buying a shed. I'm not going to talk about that quite yet in this video. This is going to be the introduction. And I thought there was no better way to introduce the shop series than to show you what I'm working with right now. Now, I have made it no secret, and in fact, I've kind of described it as this being an over-glorified garden shed. But after looking at it a little bit more and kind of checking out the ins and outs of this thing, it's more of a over-glorified shipping container than anything else. Let me show you what I'm dealing with. When you see me standing here shooting an intro or an outro to a video, you see the Gatton CNC behind me and a few things in the background here. What you don't see is the fact that the camera is outside. I got my phone here. Let me go ahead and switch over to that view. There's my camera on the tripod, and it's physically outside of the shed. The front two legs are in the doorway, but I don't even have enough room to get my camera in here. So that'll tell you why I need a lot more space here. The outside dimensions of this shed are 8 foot wide by 12 foot long. Now, this was built in the early 90s or late 80s. I'm not 100% certain. But it was built by the previous owner of this property. The previous owner bought this lot, put the house here, built this shed, and nothing really changed much from there. She did do a little bit of landscaping. We'll get into that in a few minutes. So this was where they stored the lawnmower, the garden tools, etc., etc. And for the most part, it's unchanged from when we moved in here 7 years ago. So let me take the camera off the tripod and I'll give you a little bit of a tour, which will be the quickest shop tour in history. This is the shop from the outside front. You can see the high-tech stuff I've got going on here. Basically, it's nothing more than a plywood door with 2x4 frame that I've got propped open with a couple of old antifreeze jugs full of water. Go inside and I have room for one tool chest right here. That little chest where I keep all my router bits. Then a shelf that I can only reach about half of. I've got things hanging from the ceiling because I've got no place else to put it. I've had these 4 hairpin legs for about 3 years now, and I have projects in mind. It's just never gotten there. As you can see, my Gatton CNC takes up most of the shed. So I have my tool chest here. I have room for a 5-gallon bucket. Then that's it. I've got no space at all. The only things this shop have going for it are that 15 amp electrical circuit right there, which powers everything, and it has a concrete floor. But even then, that little circuit right there runs down into this power strip that I use to power everything in this shop. If I turn around over in this corner, I have a shelf with a bunch of junk in that. An air conditioner I can't use until I get to the new shop. Then I have a little typing stand that I'm using for a computer desk and general junk storage. My monitor is mounted to the wall. There's my little heater and the battery charger for my drills. And the computer the drive box, and a bunch of my sanders and other associated junk. Oh, and my sister-in-law's tiller. What is conspicuous in every video I've ever made is this yellow cord. Right up above me, I'm not going to pan up because it'll flare out. There's a fluorescent light fixture that's plugged into an outlet that's right up there. And this is what I plug my camera's DC adapter into. So you can see I don't have hardly anything here. When we go outside and step between the house and the shed, I've got about 6 feet of space here. And I get around back here, look back this way, and you can see why I say it's basically an over-glorified shipping container. This thing is in a world of hurt. It's 30 years old. It's falling apart, literally. You can see the seams up there at that roof corner. You can see back here the trim is falling off, peeling away. It's falling apart. It's rotted halfway up the place. If there was a tutorial to be made on how not to build a shed, this is the poster child. I don't know if you can tell or not, but there isn't even any drip edge on the back edge here. The way I keep this roof from leaking is I put a bunch of shingles up and overlap them over the edge of the building to keep the water from running down inside the shed. So, this is what I'm working with. And I'll be honest with you, I'm ready for it to go away. I need more space. I need more electrical. I need a whole new shop area.
Now here's a highly redacted image of the plat map of our property. And as you can see, we live in a small cul-de-sac in a very rural area. We live in an unincorporated town, so we have no city government or administration. As such, that means we fall under the jurisdiction of the county that we live in. Now, the county has certain ordinances, and those ordinances and zoning laws and zoning regulations have kind of forced my hand when it comes to what I'm building. Let me switch over to an aerial view of our lot, and it's outlined in red here. You can just make out a chain link fence running right down here. It's about a 40-inch tall chain link fence. This is the shed that I'm currently working out of right now. This is a small tool shed that I have for garden equipment, my compressor, some other tools. The area that I'm going to be working with is back here in this corner. Now, this is not to scale, but it'll give you some indication of where I'm going to be building. Now, I explored several options when I first started planning this shed. My first idea was simply to build a 16 by 24 garage back in here. The problem is those county ordinances that I was talking about, the setback requirements would have prohibited it. This is considered a side yard fence because it divides the property between us and our neighbor over here. This is also a side yard fence. This is considered a backyard fence. The setback over here, I have to stay 6 feet away from this fence. And this shed is just a little over 6 feet away from this chain link fence. Along the back fence, however, I have to stay 10 feet away. So, I would not have even been able to make a 16 by 24 garage back here because I would not have met the setback ordinances. I did, however, find a little escape clause in the ordinance, and that is a small building under 200 square feet which is less than 10 feet tall, is exempt from that 10-foot setback and this 6-foot setback. So as long as I keep the building under 10 feet tall, I'm fine. So what I'm going to do is put a 12 by 16 CNC shop here, and then later on down the road, a 12 by 16 standard woodworking shop here. It's jumping through a lot of hoops to get the shop space, but it will be perfectly legal, and the bonus is I do not have to have a building permit for any building under 200 square feet. I will have to get a permit for the electrical, but I will not have to get a permit for the structure itself, and if I keep it under 10 feet tall, I'm exempt from these setback laws. So that's what I'm dealing with, and that's why I decided to go the route I'm going. And this is the area in question. Now, the previous owner dug this area out and brought in topsoil, and this was their garden area. Now, some of my other projects that I have been working on with landscaping for our property, I have moved a bunch of dirt back here, just as a place to put it temporarily. And then you see all this rock back here. This is an area that is going to get very little use. This is that back fence that I was showing you in the aerial photo, and here is that 40-inch tall chain link. And this point back here is where the property lines meet. This area is basically unusable, so that's where I've been piling all of the rock to keep any vegetation down. This area here is where the shed is going to be. Now I have my batter board set up and string lines set. This is the footprint of the shed itself. So what I need to do is establish a good base for a shed that I'm going to trench and run underground electrical to. The easiest way to do that is to build a gravel pad. Now I could pour concrete, but the cost was prohibitive basically. So I decided to dig out from this fence line 18 feet and then go 20 feet back. So I needed to move all of this big pile of dirt here and scrape this entire area here to level it out, then build a perimeter and bring in gravel, compact it to make my gravel pad. So that's exactly what I did. I went out and rented a subcompact skid steer with a 31-inch bucket, and I started scraping and leveling. I then decided that that chain link fence wasn't going to be good enough. So I decided to go ahead and build a 6-foot privacy fence, using a combination of new materials and reclaimed materials from a neighbor who was rebuilding his fence. I then set about measuring and figuring out where I needed to trench to run my perimeter. I had to find the highest point on the pad and the lowest point on the pad, then trench deep in one corner, then very shallow up in the front corner to get that perimeter as level as possible. The perimeter itself will be constructed out of pressure-treated 4x4s as a base. They are rated for ground contact and should do just fine. On top of those pressure-treated 4x4s, I'm going with 4x6 cedar that we use a lot up here in the Pacific Northwest for ground contact, and it works pretty good for us. Then everything was pegged down with 2-foot long 1/2-inch rebar stakes.
And this is the perimeter that I'm in the middle of building. Now, I'm going to be running a couple of dead men, they call them. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go just yet. But a dead man is basically a brace that will attach to the cedar and run horizontally across in towards the center to try to keep the center of this perimeter from bowing outward as I put the gravel in it and compact that gravel. I'm at work stoppage right now, and the reason for that is because it's time to dig the trench from where the shed is going to go back up here to the house so I can run a 100 amp sub panel. There have been a lot of questions. People who have been following me on Facebook have asked me about this whole project. Where is the shed going to go? Basically, this perimeter here will end right here where this 4x4 is laying down. It'll be built up 6 inches from here. From the outside edge of this perimeter edge here and the outside edge of this perimeter edge here, come back 1 foot and come over 1 foot. That's where this corner of the shed is going to sit. 12 feet wide, 16 feet long. I have saved some space. I've made this longer than it needs to be because a small lean-to is going to go on the back of the shed back here. That's going to house my compressor and my dust collection system. That's where we're at right now. As soon as I get the trencher, I can stake out exactly where I need to trench, run my cable and my conduit out here, stub up, then I can finish this edge here, put in my dead men, get my gravel moved back here, compact it. That's where I'm sitting today, right now. As I record this, it is July 25th, 2020. You're as up to date as I am. The whole purpose of this series is to kind of show you the kind of planning that's going to be involved in creating a home hobby CNC workshop from the ground up, literally, starting with bare dirt and working up from there. You don't need a big steel building for a shop. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I do hope you'll give me a thumbs up. Now, I will be adding to this series as I make progress. Probably the next is going to focus on where the trench went, my electrical rough-in out here to the site, and then laying down the gravel, compacting it, leveling it, and getting it ready for the shed install itself. I don't know when that's going to happen. This is not going to be a weekly series. It's not going to be a monthly series. It's going to be a series I update as I make progress. So, I hope you'll join me for the ride. It's going to be an adventure. And if you want to join me and follow along, hit that subscribe button down there. Then, once you've done that, click that little bell right next to it. Then click it again and set that for all notifications. That way, you'll get a notification every time I post a video and every time I go live. Speaking of going live, I'll be hosting a live Q&A session this afternoon at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on my YouTube channel, where we'll talk about the shop shed project, we'll talk about my plans, we'll talk about anything you want to talk about, really. I do that every Sunday after I release a video, and we get a good crowd of people. I have a lot of fun. I hope they do. But we have a worldwide audience that are a lot of fun to hang out with and talk to. So I hope you'll join me this afternoon at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on my YouTube channel for the live Q&A session. And I'll put a link to that live Q&A down in the description of this video. So, I hope to see you this afternoon. And as always, whether you subscribe to my channel or not, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and y'all take care.